Okay. All right. I just started recording. It's 3:01 on May 24th, 2001. So this is our Housing with Services team meeting. Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday.
Okay. I got to see if I can get this page down. There we go. As always, we start a meeting with a prayer. So if you'd like to center yourself and breathe and relax, and feel free to read with me. So, dear God, thank you for enabling us to gather here for this meeting. May we have meaningful discussions that will help us to build each other up and glorify your name. Help us to deal with the different challenges that we are facing as a team and feel blessed in finding our way through the challenges that are behind us. Lord, create an environment of cooperation in this place. Help us to be one in the Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, click down. All right, so this month I thought I would start with some questions of the month that I thought were good. And again, people can weigh in and give some advice if in the situations that you've been in, but I got a couple of questions that I thought were relevant maybe to give feedback for the whole group. So first question is, where does it or could we define that communities are not responsible to provide supplemental drink such as Ensure, vitamin bars, etc.? And so again, I invite everybody to weigh in here, but my answer to this is really there isn't. And I don't know that we would, because then we'd start having a whole long list of things that we don't provide. We don't provide, shampoo. We don't provide whatever. I do feel that these things, if it's a doctor's order, it's just like an over-the-counter drug. If it's something that the family chooses to have and it's not a doctor's order, then it's just that the family would provide it just like they would incontinence products or anything else. And I feel to call it out as this is something we don't provide kind of, makes it a big deal where it really doesn't need to be. I just think it fits right in with all of those other scenarios. So I don't know, does anybody else have any thoughts on how you deal with these? Okay. So we'll just assume that we don't need to have anything in writing on that. It is just, a conversation around this type of thing we do not supply. And if it is a doctor's order, it is something just like the over-counter, the meds that a doctor might order. The next one is assistance by staff with transfers outside of our building, excluding the bus outings. Do our staff transfer residents in and out of cars for families? So when I saw this one, the first thing I thought of was, well, even if we put them in the car, they got to get out of the car. So the first thing that I would recommend is if a family is concerned that they can't transfer their mom or dad in and out of the car, I would recommend a physical therapy consult so that they can help teach the family and, have that ability, because I would feel like they get where they need to go, they need to be safe too. So that's what I would say. I think that there's really nothing wrong with providing transfer assist. It's something that can be built into the service plan. It can be billed as an a la carte. But again, I would look at the reason behind and worry about the other end. So that's where I would just say I talk to the family about physical therapy.
I've always worried about the liability when we're outside of the campus. How is our staff held liable if there's an accident in the parking lot? If our staff injures themselves, or if the resident's injured?
Well, if they're on our campus, and I think Jerry Reinhardt's on the call here too, but if they're on our campus and it's something that we're doing as part of the service of care, I would think that our liability insurance would cover you, especially if it's something that was requested and approved or in a service plan or whatever. So I think they're okay on that. Again, I'd say it's more just about the risk on the other end. Jerry Reinhardt,
I agree with you. Our risk liability is coverage, the parking lot, etc. I think the Penny's first point is the right one. Has this person been assessed or have a training, even for our RAs? Transferring in and out of the car is not the same as transferring in and out of a chair. You've got the head issue. So I think it would be appropriate to get, where's the need, what is, and how should that be best done? and get therapy involved, and then go forward with staff training, as well as training for the family members to meet Penny's item at the end. You know, they go someplace, now they got to get out of the car and get back in. So
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. If that's going to be part of the contract, then the staff should be trained on procedure.
Yep. You know, and I think the other thing is to offer them things like Metro Mobility, or if there is any wheelchair, you know, a lot of communities have that for seniors, so that can be covered by their insurance or other means. Any other thoughts on that? All right. So now some helpful tools that have come up over the month. And so one of the things that we've talked a lot about is daily stand-up, and just the fact that it's really a good idea for housing leaders and the executive directors, if you do your stand-up all together, to make sure that everybody's on point, and that everybody knows what the priorities are for the day. So Becky Ryaloma from Madonna put together her stand-up agenda, which I thought was just really simple, but covered it. Because one of the things that I hear from all of you when you go out is, well, you know, this room turn needs to happen, but I'm not sure because something came up in the nursing home and maintenance had to go over there. Or, you know, whoa, I didn't even know this move in was happening. So in addition, you know, there's tons of emails and you guys all have your internal processes for communicating, which is great, but we're all humans and we're fallible. So I think that this one is really nice. You know, again, Becky just has her call every day and just goes through these things: census, move-ins, move-outs, room turns, upcoming transfers, anybody in the hospital. You know, this was a big one when I was hanging out at Madonna, because I didn't think to tell that's about spiritual care being involved when somebody was in the hospital, or something happened to somebody, and they're very integral in that. So again, just a way to keep everybody on the same page. Any incidents, resident family concerns, environmental, et cetera, et cetera. And then what we do is you dismiss everyone else, because now you're kind of moving into the HIPAA world, and then nursing stays on and sales stays on, and sales is entitled to hear basic information, what they need to know in order to appropriately help people move in. And so after that happens, then the clinical leaders say, okay, I assess this person and this is where I'm at in this process. And that way the sales is able to get back to families every day. Nursing's waiting for records. Nursing spoke to you and said, you know, told your daughter we're good to go, or whatever the case may be. So, and all of this, I don't think, Becky, you've ever taken more than 15 minutes to go through this. So just a tool that we'll have available to you.
Penny, this is Stephanie. Will that be on eSource?
It will. And afterwards I can send it out as well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Another thing that has come up, oops, I didn't mean to do that, is this is an old tool. It's been around for a while, but sliding scale insulin continues to come up. And when that does, I usually say to folks, you know, Dr. B has really said that this should not be a barrier as to why we're not admitting somebody. We have tools to address it. Contact your RNS. That's still the guideline that I would give you if you have any issues, but this tool is pretty easy and simple. So I just wanted to show it to you. And it's something that you can use yourself to have bullet points to talk to the doctor, to whatever you want to do. But again, in independent living, if somebody is independent with meds, then obviously they're dealing with their own insulin, so no big deal. And unless you're enrolled in home care, these other two are not applicable because you wouldn't be setting them up. If they are at your service or they're assisted living, if they're independent with meds, they're managing their own diabetes, so it's fine. If we are just setting up the med box and they're administering their own insulin, that's fine. But if we are to administer the insulin, this is where it comes in. So you notice in here, it doesn't say we can't take them. It says obtain orders from the provider to discontinue any sliding scale insulin, to utilize insulin pens, and to utilize 4mm needles before beginning service delivery. So down here under the recommendations, he's got some of his points that are the talking points to help you have that conversation with the doctor. And I'm not going to read through them all, but just a couple of them are: sliding scale insulin should not be a routine component of diabetes management. Drawing up insulin from a vial poses high risk for human error. Thus, only insulin pens should be routinely utilized. And then he continues on and the reasons that this is not a good idea in the management of diabetes in general, and something that they should discontinue and ask for the pen again instead. And the pen we should be able to administer. The last thing I liked about this document is it says liberalized diet plans have been associated with improvement in food, beverage intake, and resident population. To avoid dehydration and unintentional weight loss, restrictive therapeutic diets should be minimized. So what also comes up when somebody is a brittle diabetic and they say, well, do you have a diabetic menu or special diet or what have you? You know, we can provide, now that everybody's up on Menu Suite, we can print up from our menus all of the sugar content, all of the salt content, you know, everything that's in there, just like if you bought it from the store. And so that they can choose from a variety of food and manage their own diet. And so in here again, he's just got that point around that, that it's okay to live with us and be somebody who has you know, severe diabetes, or is a more brittle diabetic, I think is the proper term. Any thoughts on that? Okay. So this is out there. Please use it. Please make sure your salespeople know it. Make sure that they're not discontinuing or turning somebody down before they're talking to the housing leader or the nurse, and then have this available to help them with some of those talking points. So at this point, we have more helpful tools, but I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Linda Johnson, who's going to walk through her toolkit. Take it away, Linda.
Hello, everyone. Let me share my screen. So at the request of a few of you, we started a couple sites in eSource for some helpful tools. So if you go into your little departments here and you go to housing and go into the housing documents, you're going to find two different categories. You're going to find one, the assisted living toolkit. And these are some forms in here that maybe you're looking for. We did put in the Benedictine Pool Staff Orientation Checklist. Trying to think of different things that you might need to find quickly and that you could go in here and just print off what you need. I have to move everyone's pictures for a minute. And so it's kind of a nice, quick way to come in and look for some items that you might need. You'll notice we have our housing PowerPoint from Patty. So if we have questions about, oh, I can't remember how to do, to input somebody's pricing in, I could quick go in and read that PowerPoint. Here's our pre-admission census setup, how to do that. So we're trying to make it very user-friendly. There's a matrix care, let's see. Oh, here's the med quality and assurance check. So I have a pool nurse that I want to do those weekly quality checks, and I have a nice checklist I could hand her so she really understands how to do that. And then she could hand it in when it's done. Excuse me, my allergies are kicking in today. We have a staff guide to Matrix Care Assist, just kind of a helpful printed how to sign on, and then how to pick their community, and it has nice bright red arrows, how to do everything. So there's lots of little different things in here, and whatever you would like to see in the toolkit, we can certainly add in.
Linda, there's a question on the chat.
It's from Evans that he has the updated tool one. I'll touch base with him later and see if.
To get that on there as well. Perfect.
Yeah, I believe this was the last one sent out, but I can verify. There is a medication error form here. There's the supervision of unlicensed staff form. I get frequent calls that they can't find this form, and I believe this is for only Minnesota, but when they have to do their 30-day observation for new employees, nobody can ever find it, so I put that in here. So really I'll, if anyone needs, I think the temperature log was it went missing. Okay, we'll have to find that. So just different things that you might be looking for. There's also another site called Matrix Care Senior Living Tools and Videos. And so this is, again, has a lot of little videos in here. Some are very short, they're 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Some are a little bit longer. Here's the paper form for the guide. Again, we cross-referenced it here, but then there could also be a video on if you're having trouble with an aid and you would like them to watch a video. You could certainly come in here, click here to access the video, and then you could go ahead and play the video. And so they're all YouTube videos. I don't know if I get hits for this or not, do I? Do I get like 1 million hits if I do a good video on YouTube?
I don't know how that whole thing works, but if you
I
do,
don't know either. But this is a meeting that we had, so that was one of our last meetings, so those are on there. The CCD printing instructions, which is very nice. Dr. B and a nurse practitioner did make this. And a lot of times people are, hold on one second. We do have some communities that are laminating this and putting it by any computer with the printer so that they're able to quickly get that CCD when they're sending someone to the emergency room. Let's see.
what about the single sign-on so that people don't get so many calls?
The single sign-on is in here, and this is a training one. This is, I have it in here, and I just had it up to Penny, and I knew you were gonna ask me for that one. This is the housekeeper training for when you want your housekeepers to start doing their housekeeping on EMR. Here's a licensed nurse training for Care Assist, so what their workday should look like. This is setting up housekeeping for starting to use on Care Assist. This is setting up and managing your EMR work list. This is how to do stuff with your Welch Allen machines. This
You know,
is how
I'm
to
gonna
fill
pause
out
you on
forms.
that one for a second, because that's another reminder that I want to give people. We've been out traveling a little bit, and I'm still finding people who don't have your Welch Allen machine connected to Matrix. So if it is not connected, reach out to Kristen Morgan, and she will work with Matrix to assure that you get that connected. I didn't mean,
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, that is something I find a lot of. There is a quick one to Matrix Care unlocking and resetting passwords. Just for reminders how to go in, and for the nurse or, people who don't unlock users a lot or don't set up users a lot, they can quickly come in here and watch this 2.5-minute video and learn how to unlock users. So that's another one. And there is,
Out of that you can put by the time clock.
yeah, I have it.
Okay.
I know I have it.
Okay, I believe it. It's
I
in
think
here.
it's this one. Yep. So this is the one where you guys should print this out and you can put it right in. It just tells them how to sign in. Oh no, there's another one, Penny, and I can't remember what it's titled now that you put me on the spot.
We'll send it out in an email, because that will,
Yeah.
for those of you on call for passwords, that'll save you a lot of time.
It's in here, but if you want, I have a list of 13 more videos I would like to create, but if you have things like you struggle with, I made one for Minnesota only, how to do the 1490 or change of condition. Missouri, I'm working on your 28-day or your every 30-day visit. So whatever you guys want for a quick little tutorial, I can certainly make that for you. And then we'll add it in.
Thank you, Linda. Any
You're
questions for
welcome.
Linda? All right. I think, sometimes it seems like, oh, I don't have time to watch the video, but it's really helpful to save you time and make sure that you're doing whatever you're doing in the most efficient manner. Because it is a lot to learn a new software system, so helps to keep things going. Now I'm going to share, it's our time for our finance, and every month we share how Benedictine is doing. This is a board report that Kevin Romanowski does, and then it is disseminated out. So just to go through, we are still technically in the world of COVID. So you're going to see in here that there's two different varieties. There is the with COVID and the without COVID, and how we are doing. So overall, last month with COVID, and for those of you who are new, with COVID, means that in all the grants and funding and federal CARES Act and state funding, that is put in a pool, and as our expenses are attributed to COVID, then Kevin is transferring the money to cover those expenses that can be justified under COVID related expenses. And so when that occurs, that helps us here. So even though he is transferring, as long as we have COVID related expenses, we're still a little bit off budget here for the month at 144,000. And it could also be that we've run out of the CARES Act dollars, or we've run out of whatever dollars were given to us, and now we're just expensing this, which is also a part of the reason that we're still a little off. So $144,000 loss for the month and $420,000 off of budget for the month. But for the year, because of all the CARES Act and other dollars that have been coming to us, we are still strong and have been able to cover those COVID related expenses. So we're still $5 million ahead of budget on that one. Operating income, still just a budget, quite where we need to be from a budget perspective. If you're not talking, if you could put yourself on mute, that'd be great. So census is trending up a little bit for housing. It's in general trending up and kind of evening out. Here's the housing actual. You can see here that it's trending up. So this is great news. We're still not quite at budget, but things are definitely starting to open up and sales are starting to happen, which is excellent, excellent news. So this is the one without COVID. So if we didn't have all these CARES Act dollars and other funding that many of you have worked diligently in supporting the reports and the information that needs to happen in order to do this, we would be in a much different shape. Instead of being $5 million ahead of budget, we'd be almost $3 million behind on budget. So again, those COVID dollars and the reporting that you do to assure that we can keep them are significantly important. So just rolling down, there's just different ways to look at the same thing. And then if you look in general at how we're doing, here's the year to date budgeted and variances. So I'm going to scroll down until it separates out housing. But I did just want to point out this here. We'll look at housing. But if you look at where we are at, I'm going to scroll down and then back up. So we are at $1,028,000. So $230,000 off of budget. But you can see that a lot of this is due to the new startups. And just the fact that due to COVID, these startups could not catch up as much as they wanted to. So when you look overall at how we are doing, and you can see that, we've all really been holding our own and reducing expenses and working as we can, even though we've all got cut with census. Both Northfield and Shakopee are rocking it. They continue to do really, really good in these times. But again, opening a new building in the middle of a pandemic is just going to slow us down a little bit there. And so again, scrolling down, you can see again, a lot of the shortfall. There's $5 million or $4.3 million in shortfalls. So that, and then this is also a new transition. So that's almost 5 million. So a lot of the shortfall again is some of these new buildings that we know are going to turn around. So overall, we're still doing very strong because again, this is without COVID. With the COVID dollars, we have money. And as these new buildings fill, and they're really starting to fill, and Escalon comes on board, we're looking good. But big issue that we need to do, and this one is our census and our percentage of census, so year to date, actual versus budget. Right here, this column, AL. So you can see that our budget is that we would be 97.1% full, and we are at 85.5. So when you look at, what is causing any lack of progress, it is still our census. So that is our number one thing. It's climbing up. So again, it looks good for the future, but it's where we really need to put our focus on. And again, I put back to Becky's daily stand-up. I think, and Becky, you're on the call. Do you think that has helped you in room turns and getting people moved in quicker? If you're on mute, if you're talking. She's being quiet. Okay, so scrolling down again, kind of the same information. And this one again just separates out housing, so you can see housing, but again, you take out the new startups. And a lot of those startups are budgeted to lose money too. This is our ministry partners. Little census struggles, again, causing some of in Serenity and some others to lose a little bit of money here. Bill of St. Benedict still holding strong, but even their census is a little bit down. And the ministry partners with a census of 78% versus 90%. So we just got to keep plugging away, and we will get there. Any questions on the finances? All right. That's correct. All right. Next thing I wanted to share with you is Meal Tracker. This is a prototype that I'd like to show you. Did eSource just go into my screen from your perspective? Hopefully. Yes, good. So this is a tool for everybody, should you choose to want to use it. It's a tool for Minnesota because they're probably going to need to use it, which we'll talk about more later. But basically what this would allow you to do is if you are small enough that having a point of sale system software doesn't make sense to you, this still gives you an electronic version of what you can do in order to count. Oh, it's what I'm saying. Thanks, Linda. Of what you can do in order to count meals. And so if you're in an IL and you need to know who's eating what, if you have different types of food that cost different things and you need to add it up and you're doing all that manually, this will give you an option. So in here, I'm in Ada. And what is in here is you would start with your meal plans. And you can see that this person has 3 meals a day. And then that's going to then compare to, I'm going to add a meal. And the meal is going to be served on today. And it's either going to be a la carte, breakfast, dinner, lunch, meal delivery, or modified diet charge. So I'm going to pick one of these. I'm going to say it's breakfast. And this person is a resident. And I can only type in people who are on census, so we don't have to worry about did I put in the right name or the wrong name. And then I'm going to put in that it was the $5 entree. And then I'm going to save it, except I'm not going to save it because it's real. So at the end of the month, and what I want to do is get your feedback to this now about whether that's simple enough. So each day the server would just come in and they would say, resident 1 is Susie, she wants this. Resident 2 is George, he just wants a salad. So again, if all you're serving is everybody, it's the same amount of money, we can maybe just standardize that and have that not be an optional field. Or for yours where you have more complex diets and you can choose what you want to eat, you can enter the dollar amount. At the end of the month.
Penny, this is Jerry. I do think in order to get into eSource, the server would have to be issued a email Outlook. They can't just go into it unless they're connected with a BHS email. So that might be something that needs to be considered.
Good point, Jerry. Thank you for that. Or maybe like a server generic email type of thing. So I'll work with Jeff on that one. And so at the end of it, again, we're looking for feedback on the data entry of this. But at the end of the day, then we would have reports that come out of this that say, this is resident one, this is how many meals that person ate, and this is how many meals are in the meal plan. Or in a different community that may have a $200 credit, this is resident two, he had $200 to spend, he spent $400, so now I need to tell the billing office to charge him $200. And so you don't need to track it independently. What it'll also do is it'll give you reports on, because you can add associates, guests, and residents. And so at the end of the day, when you add those three things up, it's telling you how many meals you served. And so that makes it really simple to then auto-populate that other eSource tool, which is this one. Meal count, that's what it's called. This is a required tool that All Culinary fills out every month on how many meals that they served. And so by using that tool, it's not going to auto-populate this, but it counts your meals for you, so you don't have to manually count them. So other thoughts on the prototype?
Penny, do we know if the meals that are counted and distributed on the last tool you left are inclusive of AL or are just SNFs? I think it
is inclusive of AL.
So if a culinary person, I just don't want to get us counting things twice.
Yep.
If we have a culinary group that's caring for the whole, serving meals for a whole campus, that we don't double count.
Right. And that's a really good question. And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that we shared this before it was turned into a prototype. We did just talk about the concept with the culinary people, and they thought it would be very helpful. So I think that's a really good point, though, in how they set this up, if they're just counting meals coming out of the kitchen, or if they're doing it this way. So it may be two separate things. Again, it's an optional tool, and it's optional in Minnesota, but in Minnesota, because of the new laws that are changing, which we won't get into right now, counting meals is going to become something you're going to have to do for the AL, and be able to bill for it in that way in the AL, because you have to separate it. So this just gives you an easy way to do that.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Bill?
Good.
Bill, you got to go on mute, bud. All right, our dashboard. Let me find that. Okay, here's our dashboard. It's been updated a little bit. Some of this, for some of you who are new, are updated real time. They're entered every single month, and other ones are only annual, specifically our satisfaction surveys. So that just came out, and I know Jerry just had a webinar a week or two ago, I believe, Jerry, right, about that one? And sent out some information.
I'm sorry, Penny, I had to step away for a minute. What did you ask?
Just that you had sent out the information on the resident satisfaction.
Yes, and we had a meeting on that, optional to train, but basically every community is expected to review their data and then come up with an item you want to work on, an action plan, and add that into focus and execute.
And so the owners of the Focus and Execute are the executive directors, but the focus that Benedict, and we care about both sides, but at a strategic level, the assisted living satisfaction is something that we really want to focus on. So if you look at this dashboard, and I've talked about this in the past, you can do it as Benedict is a system as I have now, or you can uncheck this box and then just go to your community and you can get this dashboard specifically to you. And by just unchecking anything SNF related, it can then narrow it down to the assisted living just for you, and you can see how you're doing. If you do that and these become blank, it's just because you have too small of a sample, but you'll still have other things in here.
Unfortunately, some of the measures on the dashboard are AL only, and some are combined. So depending on the community, your associate engagement, your associate 90-day retention time to fill, that's all for the campus. Those are not broken down by AL or not. So if you see those missing, that could be the case.
Thank you. So safety index doing well, falls, med errors. This again is hot off the presses. So we did not make goal. We set the goal before the pandemic, but regardless, we would like, since we couldn't have spiritual care advisors come into our communities, that, it made it rather difficult to make this goal, but it's still something that's really, really important to us. So we definitely want to plan around this, want to be opening up as much as we possibly can to get that going. ALF resident, would you recommend? We missed it by the hair of our chinny chin chin, but again, we're a yellow on this one and really need to focus on what is it that our residents are doing. And again, look for that email from Jerry. If you did not see it or did not get it, then her name is Jerry Reinhardt. Let her know, because I know we have some new leaders on the call today. Associate engagement. Again, missing it just a little bit. That's a little older score, something that you guys should already be working on. 90-day retention. I'm going to give you a reminder about that in a minute. Associate attention, 12 months, and then time to fill. So in the time to fill, I just wanted to remind you, it's very interesting because all of us are struggling for staff. I myself, even a project I had to do at home, could not find a teenager or somebody able to do it. It's just hard to find people to do anything right now. And so when we have those inquiries, they are just precious commodities of gold, and we cannot leave them there. And so worried about the staffing and how hard you guys are working and struggling. Steve ran some reports and he found that only about half the people were processed that were in ISOMs right now. So, as the housing leader, as the ED, as the whatever, make sure that you know what's in ISOMs, because sometimes they're not going through the whole process. They're stopping in between, they meaning the candidate, and I don't know enough about ISIS to explain this, or they didn't finish their application to begin with. So there's 3 different spots people can get hung up on. And then there's also that communication waiting for the next level to review and whatever. So you just want to make sure that you're checking out all of those things, and not just wondering why I'm not getting any inquiries, because there may be something in the process, because there are areas where it can get bogged down. So you talk to your HR, have them help you understand, and see if there's something in there that you might be able to do. And then again, these are consolidated for the most part. Some of them, they're separate, but consolidated cash flow for the AL, yellow, very close, but not quite there, but still strong and positive. Bad debt, not quite there. And foundation, I can't tell. I think that's green. Any questions, thoughts on that? Okay. So as I said, one of the things for the employee retention, Benedictine has worked really, really hard. Many people, but led by Kathleen Murray, on onboarding RAs with a schedule of what should they be doing, when should they be doing their e-source, what tools, shadowing, et cetera. It's kind of lays it out for the 10 days. And then the other tool is that we have preceptors and mentors, and there are programs in which to provide education to them, to sign them up for a course, lots of tools. So if you have any issues with employee retention, go to eSource, it's preceptor programs, Here's the actual link. You can copy it and put it into your search bar, and that'll bring you right to the link, the area in eSource where all these tools are there for you. Questions on that? And again, Kathleen Murray here to help. Awesome person. Okay, so lastly, what I wanted to cover, and then I'm going to ask Minnesota to stay online, is to remind you guys about the Fall Leadership Conference. So it's in Duluth. It is for all leaders. And so the housing leader, the ALDON, and of course, obviously the SNF and the ED, et cetera, and other people that your community may choose to bring. It is on December 22nd and 23rd. The day before that, we're going to have 2 pre-session meetings. So Jerry always has her director of nursing pre-session, which includes the AL and the SNF DONs. And then Linda and Jackie Glenn and myself are combining for the housing leader. And then if you're bringing your salesperson, the salesperson should come to that too if they're choosing to go to the leadership conference. And so plan to come in a day before. So this one will start at 10 a.m. for some of you who need to drive up that morning. Oops, I'm sorry. Yes, and the 21st. So it starts on the 21st, and then the opening and the big dinner is on the 21st, and then it moves right into the other conference. Jerry, what time is yours starting? You know?
I don't know yet, Penny. We haven't got to get through the ULT in June, and the so I haven't started working on that. But typically we start in the morning. Maybe not right at 8, but typically in the morning.
So for those of you who live far away from Duluth, you may want to consider coming up the night before. Actually, for both of them, because it depends on how long your drive is. So any questions from anybody on the call right now? Okay.
I do want to point out, Penny, that attendance at the leadership conference is at the discretion of the local ED. And so it's not just anybody who wants to go can go. You have to work that out with your local team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I meant, whoever typically goes. And that's why I'm saying sales doesn't always go. And good point of clarification. Thank you, Jerry.
Penny, you
Yes.
did have something from Kendra. Her question was, she likes the idea of the meal tracker, but wondering if there's any way to make it less time intensive for servers instead of having to add each meal for each resident. Could it be more of a log of an entire meal? There would be a log meal button, and then you would edit what meal and date, and then just check every resident off that was present for that meal.
Can you take a picture of that with your phone?
Yeah.
It'll be on the recording, because that's a really good point, Kendra. Maybe there's 2 different ways we can set it up. Because I
Yep, I'll
know,
copy that.
yeah, for Kendra, you have alternatives, but it's always $5 for each meal. Where other
And then Bill's
choices.
Bill's
So
asking if there's a housing meeting in June that we should attend.
if you are from Minnesota, yes, and we will get onto that. If you are not from Minnesota, no, you do not need to attend in June for the housing leader. If you are an executive director, there is something in June. Any other questions? Okay, so in Minnesota, they are going through some pretty significant regulatory changes right now. So that's why I'm going to ask the Minnesotans to stay on. So I appreciate the time of those of you who are not from Minnesota, and have a wonderful and blessed day.
And just to point that out, you sounded very Minnesotan. Minnesota, stay on. Please, Minnesota.
Bye.
Sorry.
Bye.
Now you have it on recording. I was mimicking you too.
And it's strange because I've always been told I do not talk like a Minnesotan because
You usually don't, but you really did.
yeah,
then.
I did say that one because my father's from New York and my mother's from Georgia, so my accent is not as strong, or at least it wasn't. All righty, some fun we're having in Minnesota. So just some reminders to everybody. The licensed administrator, the licensed assisted living director, excuse me, applications are due by June 30th. So if you have not already applied for this, get it going. It's like I said, you got to get transcripts, you've got to get some other things. So it's not something you want to wait till the last minute. You want to get these in ASAP. It does require a federal background check. So if you have been background checked as an employee at a state level, this is different. So you're going to need to go back again. If you are a licensed nursing home administrator, you've already done that. But if you are not, you probably do not have it listed with the state. So, with the feds. So you will need that too. So all these things take time. So jump on that, get that thing done. The assisted living application. So the application for your housing with services to become an assisted living is actually due on June 1st. However, the state has said that they want it done today, or you may not make the deadline of June 1st because there may be questions, there may be things missing, they need you to come back and pay, etc. So our beloved Ben from our legal department, Ben Wout, completed all of the applications. Ben and I sat down last week with every single one of the Minnesota communities with the EDs and when the housing was available with the housing leaders and went through the application to make sure it was okay, and all of them have been submitted. So that's great news. As we talked about on those calls, if you were on those calls, we made me the authorized agent, and we gave a generic email that we created that Ben and Trent and Janelle and I are monitoring. However, the first response we got back did not send it to that email. They sent it to the housing leader. So we've gotten back Shakopee, and the feedback went to L. So I need you to please watch your email carefully and look for anything from the state and immediately forward it to Ben, myself, or Janelle Peterson or Paulson. And what that is doing is it's asking for the payment. It may be saying there's something wrong and we're not going to process it. So that's huge too. Hopefully it's just saying you need to pay for it. So watch your inbox. If anybody's going on vacation over the holidays, have somebody else see if there's a way that they can at least look for this or something. Tell your ED, they should know, but watch your inbox. So it may not come to us, it may come to you. And that's critically important because if we don't respond and turn it around, we will miss the deadline. Any questions on that? Or I'm going to keep going here. All right. Oopsie. And then lastly, assuming that what's coming to either me or you is, hey, it worked, we accepted it, you just need to pay it. These are very large amounts of money that your credit card is not going to cover. So what you're going to want to do is, again, forward it to us, and then we have a process by which these are going to Alan in the support team, and he will pay that bill for you. He's got it. What you have to do is you have to pay it online. You can't do it by check, and you have to give them your routing number and bank route. And by doing that, you have to go through some, rules and regs in order to get that paid. You got to make sure the money's in the account, etc. So Alan's taking care of all of that. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to get us that email, and then we will pay it for you. So don't try to pay it. Any questions on that? All right. So as part of the new assisted living regulations, they have updated the Bill of Rights. That Bill of Rights was, I believe, sent out to you by Ben. So you may have it, but as you all know, you should be getting your admission documents from eSource. And the reason we do that is when something like this happens, then Lisa Gittner changes it for all of you, and then you are compliant. So Lisa is in the process of updating that right now. She is switching out the old Bill of Rights with the new Bill of Rights. So again, know that there is a new Bill of Rights in effect. So if you've got piles of admission documents that you're going to need to update the Bill of Rights. Otherwise, as I said, you should only be printing up about 5 of them and then getting them off of eSource, and it will be the most recent one. The last thing I'm going to say about that one, I do want to add one other thing. Some of the updated paperwork that we need to do doesn't trigger until August 1st. So we are still keeping, for example, I'm trying to think of what one of them is, your USIG, your list of what we provide in the community. Under current law, if you got surveyed tomorrow, it still needs to be the old one, and the new one doesn't start in effect until August 1st. So we're creating, you created for me, thank you very much. You created your UDALA, and we're saving that in a separate file, and then we'll just trigger that in August. So know that that's being done as well. And we'll cover all of this in June. So again, you guys had to do a ton to help us get the information. There was EVS studies, there was figuring out the UDALA, turning that around multiple times. Some of you had to do it, you couldn't change it, so you had to do it all over again. And busy time. So I thank you. We could not have gotten this done without you. You guys are amazing. The other reminder that I wanted to give you is that the deadline is actually today, but there is a home and community-based scholarship that is available. And if you missed it today, you can go for it next year. It is available to every single person on this call. Your community just needs to put, what do we want to use the funding for? And how much is it going to cost? And you will get something. And many people get everything they've asked for. This is state money to help assure that people want to work in the world of home and community-based services. So it is money to help support education. So lots of creative things you can do with this, but also if you, once this grandfathering takes place or ends after June 1st, and you have to get the assisted living director training, this will pay for that. So it's just another use that you can apply to the state and say, hey, I need money to put my people through training to become licensed directors. And you can do that. Questions on that? Okay. So the last one, when the question was, do we have to go somewhere in June? If you are from Minnesota, yes, you do. There is a meeting in June. So there is the ULT, which is June 14th and 15th, and housing does not need to go to that. But then what we're going to do is the EDs need to stay in town, and the housing leader and the director of nursing need to then come in on the 16th and then stay through the 17th. So we're going to start at 2:15 on the 16th. We're going to run all day long on the 17th. So if you're at ED, you got to extend your stay. If a housing, make your reservation at the Crown Plaza or plan to drive in. On the 17th, we're going to start bright and early at 8. So consider that when you decide whether you're getting a hotel room or not. And then as I was looking at this, Linda said, you know, there's some other people that I think that the communities might want to consider joining us because of their role. So maybe Linda, you can talk a little bit about that.
So I was thinking of some of our bigger communities that some of our nurses really manage that whole community. Heather from Callista Court, I think, is one. Ellen from Regina, Lisa Linder from Madonna, Josh Johnson from Madonna, Duluth would be Anna. There's just so many when you have such a big campus that are so involved. I'm not sure if those communities would want to send those people who are just, you know, so supportive in those communities. So something to think
Linda,
about.
we did have to give a count of individuals to the organization in the room. So I'm just want to make sure we don't we have enough space for everyone. So we might want to make sure we have that.
I 100% agree, Jerry. That's what I was going to say. If you do feel as a community like you want to support having some of these other nurses come, please let me know. And that way we can just validate if there is enough room for them and or, you know, update it. So I think we still probably have time to maybe order an extra meal or two, but again, I don't know. So that's why I'm just kind of wondering. I wanted Linda to be able to share that. I think that's an important piece. And then again, we can get a count if you are a community that feels you should have extra people and make sure that it fits within.
And one more thing, Penny. Someone wrote in for the new Bill of Rights form, do we need to give current tenants and have them sign an acknowledgement that they received the new Bill of Rights?
You will, but don't do it now because we're also going to give you a new contract and other things. Just wait for this June session and then we'll go from there. But anybody new, hand them that. And then again, when we do the switch over and when we have everything, you can send out all the new things and have them redo it because you will need a new contract as well.
And then for the communities that do want to send extra people, if you could let us know this week for sure, so we can check on that for you
Yep.
and then get back to you. Thank you.
Oops. Yeah, that happened. I'm pretty sure that was my last slide, but I just want to make sure. Yep, that was my last slide. Any other questions?
I don't see any on the chat.
Okay. I give you 4 minutes of time. Have a
Penny.
blessed rest. Yes,
Will you just stay on?
I will. Have a blessed rest of your day, everybody. And thank you for everything you do. And let us know if you have any questions or anything else we can help with. Have a great day.
Bye,
Thank you for
everyone.
everything.
Bye.
Bye, Rob.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye, Rob.
I have to stop.
I'm really trying to leave this meeting, but I can't
You are
figure out.
trying to stay.
No,
Hey, I
I'm,
like
oh, there.
that. I like Becky who has a Bitmoji of herself with a mask on. I want that for my picture. I wonder how she does that.
I can't. Oh, here we go. I'm like, I can't.